The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva and smeared the clay on his eyes and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went and washed and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is," but others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." So they said to him, "How were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see." And they said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I don't know." They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on a Sabbath. So then the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and now I can see." So some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinful man do such signs?" And there was a division among them. So they said to the blind man again, "What do you have to say about him, since he opened your eyes?" He said, "He is a prophet." Now the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and gained his sight until they summoned the parents of the one who had gained his sight. They asked him, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. We do not know how he sees now, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him, he is of age, he can speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone acknowledged him as the Christ, he would be expelled from the synagogue. For this reason, his parents said, "He is of age, question him." So a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." He replied, "If he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know is that I was blind, and now I see." So they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" They ridiculed him and said, "You are that man's disciple? We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one is from." The man answered and said to them, "This is what is so amazing, that you do not know where he is from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if one is devout and does his will, he listens to him. It is unheard of that anyone ever opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he would not be able to do anything." They answered and said to him, "You were born totally in sin, and you are trying to teach us?" Then they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered and said, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have seen him. The one speaking with you is he." He said, "I do believe, Lord," and he worshipped him. Then Jesus said, "I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, and those who do see might become blind." Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and said to him, "Surely we are not also blind, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you are saying, 'We see,' so your sin remains." The Gospel of the Lord. I have to give myself what at least will seem as a little bit of an excuse. This is a very difficult passage for me to preach because I find it moving in all the right ways and probably in all the wrong ways. It's a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and it doesn't get easy proclaiming it time after time. It's just like to feel the twists and turns of the passage. But take heart, because we have in front of us a great hero of faith, this blind man, right? We just keep hearing the blind man, the blind man, the blind man, the blind. And it's like, okay, we get it ad nauseum. It's like, who is this guy? The blind man, the blind man. Here he is, right? This great hero of faith, but going unnamed, right? Popping up everywhere, and the center of attention again for all the right and wrong reasons. But there he is, giving us this strength we need to continue to honor the work of God, and even then to worship Jesus. What I'd like to do is, for once, offer the passage and say, this is a perfect passage for prayer. So if you can find time to read through it yourself and start to meditate on the scene, see how it's unfolding, see how you become, perhaps you start off as a bystander in the scene, like meditating through it, imagining yourself in it, and then feeling, where it is God is leading you, He's prompting you, He's pushing you to take up perhaps one character or another, and to see the scene unfold through their eyes. I think it will be something of a fruitful experience for you. What I want to do is just come back and go through the scene, kind of like beginning, middle, and end, and add, if I can, like a very light touch of interpretation that might serve as something of a picture frame for the whole thing. Yeah. So what do we see in the beginning? And remember that we're in the season of Lent. How could you forget? Right? We're in the season of Lent. No, we're in the season of Lent. Yeah. Even though Father Daniel's wearing pink. Yeah. This is the season of Lent. Okay. Yeah. Rose to some aficionados. Okay. So what's happening here is we're seeing both in this passage. In our lives as Christians, and in Lent, which is something of a microcosm of our Christian life, we're seeing the coinciding of say various narrative themes. So the first is this: Jesus is on the scene. Jesus acts. Okay, this is what we see right in the beginning. Right? There's almost no introduction. There's a little bit. What's going, the disciples are asking him, there's a blind man, what's the issue, all that kind of thing. But it very, very quickly turns to the fact that Jesus performs this great work of God for him, not even restoring his sight. And if you look even in medical journals, you'll see this thing is beyond the conceivable, to take someone born blind and give him sight. It's even for us today, befuddling. Okay, Jesus heals him. It's very quick, happens very quick. So let me put the light layer on top of this. In our Christian lives writ large, right, Jesus summons us to faith. He summons us to the life of great and costly love, that we are to live by faith. Yeah, when does Jesus do that? For many of us, that happened when we were very young. Right? We baptized babies because Jesus wants to be with us from the beginning. Right? Before parents sometimes can see the personality of their child, the baby's baptized. Right? It's like this happened very early in the scene, just as right here, the touch of Jesus to heal the man born blind happens very early in the scene. In Lent, which is the microcosm of our Christian life, we see that Jesus has called us, if we're sensitive to his promptings, in this season that is dedicated to our giving him the praise, our following him as our Messiah, as the head of his renewal movement. He's given us certain practices that we've committed to in Lent to help, express our devotion and also give rise to new devotion and inflame our devotion. Right, so those practices of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. It happened, I think, right around the beginning of Lent. Perhaps a little bit before, perhaps a little bit after. We kind of honed in on what those practices were. Okay, so that's the beginning in three little phases. There's a middle. The middle is tough, right? Just as the middle of this passage is tough. What do we see in the passage? The man has been cured by Jesus. And then what happens? His life is really good after that, right? Everything's downhill for everything. Yeah, it takes a turn pretty quickly. He's dragged before the Pharisees. He's basically disowned by his parents. I don't know if you caught that part. They're like, he's big enough and ugly enough to take care of himself. Don't bring us into it. We don't be cast out of the community. He's the one who's been healed. Go and talk to him. Go and throw him out of the community if you want. That's his problem. He's the one who has been healed. Yeah. So it gets really bad, right in the middle of the scene for him. Yeah. And in the middle of the scene, what does he do? He hardly knows who Jesus is. He says, he's asked who he is. He says he's a prophet. I don't know, but he must be a prophet, right? He's done this great thing. So he holds on to the cure, and he holds on to what little sense of Jesus he has, he holds on to. And there's then, he's facing all the brutal opposition around him, right? The brutal opposition of dehumanizing agendas, this desire for the Pharisees to hold on to their power, right? Their plans, and the rest. Yeah, he's the center of their scorn. Okay, so now the second layer on top of that is what our Christian lives as a whole. So he's been called, right at the beginning of his life. His Christian life, he's been called by Jesus to persevere by faith in the life of great and costly love that he's been called to. Yeah, that's us now. Yeah, so the beginning, that was the call. Now the middle, it's all been smooth sailing, right? Our Christian life has all been smooth sailing, right? No, when Jesus summoned us to himself, we began to live that life of great love, and we realized somewhere in the middle, maybe we're in the middle right now, in the middle of it right now, this is costly love. This is costly love. It's going to take a lot to live this way. It's going to take our whole commitment, everything we can muster to live our life on mission. And we don't necessarily know too much about what Jesus' plan, what his purpose is. But we know that he's called us from death to life. We've received his healing grace. We're recipients of his healing grace. We know that. And we have some sense of who he is. Yeah, and in the passage as well, right? It's not actually the blind man who's the center of the story, it's Jesus. But he's like a flickering light. Do you know, like, you can't really track him. He pops up here, he pops up there. And in the middle, this is our kind of middle stage, our middle scene. We recognize that Jesus is a prophet, right? We know that he's done this great thing for us, calling us from death to life. We know that he's healed us. He has the capacity to heal us. And we're holding on to him. Even though we don't always see him, we don't understand his plan and purpose. Yeah, so then what do we get at the end? We get the vindication. There's a lot more going on here, right? But it's nice to do it this way. What do we get? What do we get at the end? We get Jesus right on the scene, right? As the man suffers expulsion from the synagogue. So he's excluded from the life of the community at that point. This is almost like the worst thing that can happen. I mean, it's probably his, at that point, to just move out of the area. He's not allowed in the communal life of his people. So he's expelled from the synagogue. The worst has happened to him, but he's made his way through this scene of great pressure, holding fast to Jesus, though he doesn't really know him. And he comes out on the other side. And Jesus is in front of him to reveal himself to him. He said, what does he say? He says, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" And the man, this really is one of my favorite characters in all of Scripture. You would think, okay, well, just say yes. You've had a hard time. Just say yes. But here he is. "Who is he, sir? Tell me more about him. Let's stretch out the scene a little bit. Tell me more about him." And Jesus, you have seen him. You have seen him. The one speaking with you is he. "I do believe, Lord." And he worshiped him. The man born blind has come to see Jesus. So much so that he worships him. See this very infrequently in the Gospels. What ready sight he has to see Jesus as he is. So that's in the story, okay? The next layer, our life of Christian faith, is that, of course, holding fast to Jesus in the midst of trouble, difficulty, trial, opposition, and scorn, and the like. And when everything bad is being thrown at us, holding on to Jesus, even though we don't know his plan, even though we can't grasp his purposes, we will receive the reward that is seeing Jesus and worshiping him. This is what we live for, right? This is the great reward of the struggle that we're engaged in. That if we persevere in the life of great and costly love that we've been called to, we will see the object of our faith. We will be drawn into deeper relationship with Jesus. We will see love himself. And love himself will embrace us. And then beyond that, when Jesus says, when he asks him, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The Son of Man is a figure who brings God's justice to the world, who brings God's restoration to all of creation. So it's not simply that the man sees the one who puts things right. It's that he himself now becomes an agent of putting things right in the world. So again, it's by faith, right? It's seeing Jesus, entrusting ourselves to him, that we are persevering in the life of great love that he's called us to. That life of great love, that mission that will restore all of creation in the power of his own life of love. And then in terms of our making our way through Lent, the same, right? I missed that one on the second step, but a recapitulation here as well. That, finding ourselves in the middle of Lent, questioning our penitential practices, not knowing exactly, what the point was, holding fast to them in the face of temptation. Just give up. You're useless. You can't do this. You just give up. What was the point of this anyway? It doesn't really mean that much and whatever, right? That flickering light, that's Jesus. No, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to hold on. And holding on to him in those penitential practices, we become more and more docile to his instruction. We become more and more eager to see him. We become more and more eager to receive him as he is, the Son of Man, so that we can be about his work in the world. Yeah, here again, the entirety of the scene is to say Jesus is at the center. And for us in our life of Christian faith, in this Lenten season that is the microcosm of our life of Christian faith, we hold fast to him no matter what. And he then, my friends, he heals our blindness. Yeah, he binds up all our wounds, and he gives us the strength here and now to persevere with him in that life of great and costly love that he's called us to.